So Laverne Cox responds to Jess Hilarious's tweets and back and forth with T.S. Madison and the other trans girls. But in the midst of doing so, she mentioned something that we need to really have a conversation about. Is y'all ready to joust this right quick? Let's joust.
Come on, Blaze.
It's the beef for me.
Wah, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we are.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Voodoo Doll TV back with a quick little juice or whatever the case may be. And you know, this is more response to the Just Hilarious thing. I'm not gonna lie, when Laverne Cox, when I saw it on Twitter that she had something to say, I was like, oh, okay. I said, because you know, she's like major in the trans community. Like, she's just like, you know, the girl in the trans community. So I was just sitting here saying, well, I wonder what she got to say. So I got to listening to her response to the Jess Hilarious response to the trans girl, because we're not going to say it started with Jess. We're going to start it with the trans girl. And she, on her rant where she get the crying, but no tears was coming out, it was just giving fake and fraud. You know what I mean? But she mentioned something in here in her rant about, you know, she basically switched this all up and made it seem like they're the victims in this. And something that she mentioned in there is extremely important to Black women with children. Do you hear me? Now, y'all probably sitting up here saying, oh Lord, what's going on? Things are happening under your nose that y'all don't know nothing about. And let me just say this before I get into her rant. Number one, I thank God. I thank the Most High God that my child is out of grade school. Number one. Number two, I feel sorry and feel bad for Black women who look like me and you for their children in grade school. Now, y'all probably saying, what this got to do with the Just Hilarious thing or woot-de-woot-de-woot? You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna hear about it in the rant. Now, listen. Go ahead on, take a look at what Laverne Cox had to say about it. And to be honest, she really didn't really talk about it. She kind of like diverted it into them being a victim or whatever. But nevertheless, I'm talking too much. Let me let y'all hear the rant for yourselves. And I'm going to come back with my commentary to talk about what I caught and see if y'all caught it. Let's take a listen.
We are live. I had the pleasure of being on the Breakfast Club with Jess Hilarious earlier this year, and she is trending right now. So I actually do want to talk a little bit about Jess. I'm gonna need to need to be a little kitchen table Laverne, a little like, you know, offline Laverne right now. So that prefacing, shit is fucked up right now in the world for trans people. 20 states in the United States of America have banned gender-affirming care for young people. 2 states have banned it for adults. They are attempting to ban gender-affirming care not only for children and for adults, and there are laws on the books right now in 20 states that are being challenged in the courts that ban gender-affirming care for young people. We are in an existential crisis as trans people right now. And that crisis is happening because of media propaganda that dehumanizes trans people that's been very successful. And it's not just right-wing media propaganda. It is left-wing propaganda. It is center-left media, the New York Times, the Washington Post. Like, people who consider themselves like liberal-leaning people have all these anti-trans takes right now. So there is a media attack on the existence of trans people right now. And that all of the media propaganda that is happening that dehumanizes trans people, that makes it seem like that we're crazy. And I see, this is why I don't like to get this excited, because people say we're crazy, we're going too far all the time. So I try to come out on my platforms calm and loving, but right now it's not a time to be, it is not a time. If we have a Republican president in 2024, they will ban gender-affirming care for everyone nationally. What happens when we police gender like this. When we pass laws banning trans people from bathrooms, banning trans people from sports, taking away our health care, it doesn't just affect trans people. The effect on trans people is real and serious, but it affects non-trans people too. None of us are woman enough in imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy. None of us are woman enough by these standards. All of our gender is going to be policed. And if you cannot be woman enough or man enough, then it's all a social construct. And these conversations that pit non-trans women, cis women, whatever language you want to use, assigned female at birth people against trans women. These conversations they divide and they conquer, and then we do not work in solidarity with each other. We need to be working together. Why in the world are we having conversations about who owns menstruation? It is utterly ridiculous. And for the record, me as a trans woman, menstruation is none of my business. Who menstruates, how they menstruate, it's none of my business. I'm really happy. I love being a trans woman so much because I don't menstruate and I can't get pregnant. These are things that I'm very happy are not a part of the things that I have to deal with as a woman. My womanhood is not in question for me. I can have a conversation about womanhood because I'm living that. Stop. Love each other. Stop giving into the bullshit. My existence, me just wanting to exist on the planet is not a threat to you. And you wanting to exist on the planet is not a threat to me unless you want to take away my rights and take away my ability to exist on my own terms. We're not a threat to each other unless we're trying to oppress systems, corporations, moneyed interests are a threat to us and our existence. This is the Laverne that I hold back because I don't want people to think we're trans people look crazy. I'm trying to rep for my community. But I'm mad. This shit is ridiculous. And I'm walking around every single day knowing that there are trans people and their families fleeing states right now because they don't want their parents to be arrested for supporting their children. There are people fleeing states because they need access to reproductive health care that they can't get in their state. People are losing their lives. More and more violence is happening against women and femmes and non-binary people because of all the hate and hatred that's being spewed against trans people right now. It's so real. People are showing up at drag shows with AK-40s and AR-15s and guns at drag shows. Right now, that's happening against our communities right now, all of our communities. And we're like fighting about some dumb shit on the internet. And that's what goes viral. Those trans stories are going viral. And our lives are in peril right now. But the bullshit about trans people is going viral. And misinformation about trans people is going viral. And I'm so tired of it, and I'm so sick of it. And I'm sick of trying to be in public and be magnanimous and gracious when shit is real and our lives are in danger. Our existence is in danger right now. And it's not hyperbolic. Look at the evidence.
Now, y'all just heard Laverne Cox's take on the just hilarious in trans Angelica girl situation. And I found a lot of gaslighting, deflecting, and victim blaming and shaming. Not really shaming, but really victimhood here. Let's go over a few things before I start with the obvious, which is why I brought y'all here. Number one, she starts to talk about, healthcare for trans people. First of all, there's no legislation to not give trans people health care. What she's talking about is the gender affirming care, which we're going to get into last because that's a whole subject within itself. Okay, cool. Then she starts talking about she wants us all to stand together. Why would we stand together with y'all right now? when y'all are clearly separating yourselves. And again, this is not the entire community. I'm talking about these new age trans in the gays, the new ones, because the older ones, they get it. You know what I mean? But ultimately, why would we stand with you when we got to fight for ourselves at this moment? We need to fight for ourselves. Then she hollers, none of us are woman enough to stand up against the system. Ma'am, do you not understand that black women have their own plights that they still have been fighting and will be fighting probably for a long time? I don't really get that. You know what I mean? And as far as us working together, I call for black women to work on our own thing. I call for black women to work on our own things and things that we need as a community. Because as we see, everybody, we have to windmill on every single species except the animals, child. We literally do. Not to mention, she brings up the menstruation comment and says that she's happy she can't menstruate. She loves being a trans woman. This is what kills me with not only her, but TS and all the other girls. Y'all are saying what we're saying, but y'all are not saying that loud the way that the girl Angelica was saying we don't police womanhood and periods. You know what I mean? Y'all are saying that within y'all rants very, very low, on a low vibrational and a low volume. But you're not saying that out loud. None of y'all came out and said and checked the girl and was like, girl, no, you doing the most, not fat. Then she goes on to say that, you know, basically their existence is being threatened. Not true. So not true. Nobody has ever had an issue with trans or gays or any of these other communities to exist. Nobody has ever had that issue. The problem has been that now y'all are coming through the doors trying to take over. That has been the problem. And then she goes on to say people are leaving and fleeing states because they don't want their parents to go to jail. Let's talk about what we really came here to talk about. Okay. Because she talking about everything going viral but the right things and they going to trans shows. Girl, black women are killed every 5.5 hours. Girl, we don't want to hear that. Let's talk about what's really going on. She starts to talk about gender affirming care. I want to know if you guys know out here in the that's hearing my voice. Do you guys know what gender affirming care is for children? I want somebody to help me out. And if you don't know, I'm just going to give you the textbook definition. Then we're going to talk about what she said. So gender affirming care for young people. Okay, now this is from the Office of Population Affairs. This is a .org site, which means it is verified. It means it has been researched, and this is what they decide to put out there. What is gender affirming care? Gender affirming care is a supportive form of health care. It consists of an array of services that may include medical, surgical, mental health, and non-medical services for transgender or non-binary people. For transgender and non-binary children and adolescents, early gender affirming care is crucial to overall health and well-being, as it allows the children or adolescents to focus on social transitions and can increase their confidence while navigating the healthcare system. Okay, so that's what gender affirming is. Remember, keep these keywords in mind. It may consist or include medical, surgical, mental health, and non-medical services for trans and non-binary people. Now, what are the non-surgical procedures they have? Gender affirmation can include various procedures such as a hormone therapy, genital reconstructions, breast reconstruction, facial, plastic surgery, speech therapy, urological and psychiatric services, and primary care. Why is this important, people? First off, I need y'all to wake up to what these people be putting in front of y'all, and y'all don't even be catching the play. Number one, this was a conversation that was about Jess Hilarious basically saying that you can't tell me, a woman, that I can't bleed and I can't police bleeding and womanhood or whatever. Your politicians are like, you know, like pawns, right? They're basically there to control things. So are your celebrities. Let's just start there. Your celebrities are here to control things just like these people. The ones who make it really all the way up to the tippy top, them the ones that are your puppet masters. They are the ones that are going to basically put out this information and tell us down here at the bottom how to think. Why is that important? The very first transgender woman to actually, well, she's not the first. RuPaul is the first. But she's the one who's like, she's at the tippy top. Orange is the New Black. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. She is using her platform to basically fearmonger not only us, but people who believe in helping out and supporting the trans community into believing that they're attacking trans people, and their health care includes and consists of gender affirming care for our children. Why is that a bad thing? Because our children are going to be able to have the options that I stated before: surgical, medical, non-surgical, mental health. So what does that mean? That means your child can go to school and your child can tell the teacher, hey, I identify as the opposite of what I am. And then your teacher's going to say, OMG, we need to send you to the gender affirming psychologist. Oh, because by the way, they are putting multiple gender affirming psychologists into our schools. Oh, it gets better. So then your child goes down to the gender affirming psychologist, and the gender affirming psychologist goes, okay, so what is it that you identify as? If y'all hear thunder in the background, I'm sorry, it's about to rain. Look, so they goes, what do you identify? And your child say, I identify as the something opposite of what I am. And then they go, oh my God, we need to get you into some training, some mental health care, something to get you to look like on the outside what you feel like on the inside. Boom. Now your child can have an option of getting hormonal therapy, which is hormone blockers, pills. They can even decide that they want to go all the way and complete the transition, either cutting off the top or cutting off the bottom while using these hormone blockers so that they can transition into whatever it is they want to transition into. And then what happens when you find out you find the pills? Because remember, oh, by the way, you don't get a say as a parent. Check the state of California. Right now, as we speak, the state of California has already started to implement this procedure. And if you as a parent try to intervene or intersect into what your child has decided that they wanted to do, then you, my friend, will go to jail. But back to what it is. So now you go find the pills in your child's room. You noticing the difference in your child, and you're going, wait a minute. Who gave you these pills? Oh, I got them down at the school. I didn't authorize you to get these pills. You getting off of these. The child go back to school. My mama took my pills. Then the school call your house and tell you cannot intervene in what this child has decided to do, right? So then you're going, ain't no way. That's my child. That is my child. And the school's telling you, if you continue to intervene, your ass going to jail. Now, you gotta be stuck between a rock and a hard place because you can't even control what your child is consuming. And how did they slide that in on us? By allowing your child to get birth control at school without you even having a say or so. What's up? Y'all ain't ready for it. I'm about to preach today. Because in Laverne Cox's message of her crying with no tears, she slid that right on in, talking about people are fleeing states because they are afraid their parents are going to be arrested for confirming their genders and for supporting them. BS. It is the other way around. You think I'm lying? I got a news clip for y'all anyway. So listen. Black people, why is this important? Y'all thinking, oh, that's way in California. Who cares? They ain't got nothing to do with me. Oh, that's the white folk kids. That's the clique kids. We ain't worried about them. They ain't got nothing to do with me. Wrong. Do you understand that this will be implemented in the poor urban communities first and foremost? Do you know that? Which means if your child attends a public school, or what do they call them? Charter schools? That's going to be you and your child. And we all know people in the urban communities, for the most part, people in public schools, those type of kids get free lunch programs and all that stuff. Parents ain't got that type of money to go to court and fight. But your ass gonna go to jail. The moment you step in and try to say something about what they're doing with your child without your permission, mind you, you're going to jail. So I'm saying that to say this. Listen, Laverne Cox is a puppet. Do you hear me? Y'all have to understand there are levels to this, and this is why as black women, we need to focus on black women and worry about us. Because do you hear me? Nobody else is worried about us, number one. Number two, always be mindful of these celebrities who get out here and advocate for something real hard. They are getting paid and they are being told what to do, and they are doing that. They have puppet masters. They are the puppets. Do you hear me? This community knows they're nothing without us, which is why they're calling for us to stand together, because they need us. I propose we worry about ourselves. That's what I propose, because this is going to end bad for black women. Now, why is this also important? I also wanted to show y'all a news clip of what's been going on under our nose while we over here down there at the BET Awards. Essence Festival, watching Krishan and Blueface blues each other for the life of their lives, dealing with all of this, everything we were being entertained by. These people was passing these laws right up under your nose. You got to know that. And not to mention, with our with our current political party that we have down there in the White House, who's, by the way, pushing this. Got to know that, but because black people are the ones that got this political party in the White House, specifically black women. But we about to see what you voted for. Now look, listen, and I'm not a political channel because I don't really do politics like that. But what I will say is this: there has been a lot taking place between us. Well, not between us. Well, without our knowledge, I'll say that. And they are so busy keeping us entertained at the bottom that we don't even recognize when they are basically playing in our face. Laverne Cox was playing in our face with this whole doggone rant. I want to let you guys hear what the White House, and not really the White House, I guess this government, I don't know who this is. Girl, again, like I told you, I'm not really political, but I stand on the side of political ideals down here at the bottom. So things that's going to affect us long term, I'm trying to have foresight and warn you guys about it. So anyway, this guy right here is basically against gender affirming. That's what I just told you about with children. Now listen, if you as an adult want to do what you want to do, go ahead. But they are pushing this on children. So he's probing this lady, asking her, is she in fact online with this gender affirming with children, knowing that we don't know the side effects, the outcomes, how this gonna play out for our kids, and asking her straight up what she think about it. Because remember, she's pro gender affirmation, but she won't even say that. Let me let y'all hear the news clip, and I'm gonna come right back with some more commentary, girl.
I do have a few questions. I want to say a few things. First, we keep hearing this is a politicized issue. This is a manufactured culture war. I got to say, we aren't the ones who did that. We aren't the ones that came up with this radical new movement that is performing permanent physiological changes to children. No evidence of any benefits. We didn't start that. We're just trying to stop it because it's crazy. It's a contentious issue, which almost 70% of Americans oppose. So we are just saying here that taxpayer money shouldn't be used for it. That's all. This should not be that controversial of an issue. The questions are for Dr. McNamara. I just want to ask you, honestly, you're not concerned about the unknown effects of puberty blockers, hormones, and surgical interventions in kids, the long-term effects, not concerned about that?
Everything I've said here today comes from a place of deep honesty and conviction for the care that I provide and the community that I'm a part of.
You've said that we've cherry-picked data. How do you mean how do you mean that?
So it is very unscientific and flawed to pick a single study or a single statistic and to discuss it in isolation.
Totally agree.
Medical experts are able to talk about all of the evidence as a whole.
Totally agree. So it's good to look at systematic reviews, right? That's the gold standard of evidence when you're trying to understand whether something works or whether it doesn't. So the British Journal of Medicine looked at 61 systematic reviews with the conclusion that, quote, there is great uncertainty about the effects of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries in young people. The Journal of Endocrine Society came up with the same conclusion, even the American Academy of Pediatrics. They all cite the lack of evidence. So here's the thing. If you're doing a therapy and it's, temporary, whatever, fine, maybe let's try it, let's see if it works. But when you're talking about permanent physiological changes, do you not agree, just from an ethical standpoint, that you might want extremely strong evidence of the benefits? And there is no systematic review that states that there is strong evidence of benefits.
Sir, are you aware of how the quality evidence grading system works and how it's applied?
Yeah, we read through it. That's why I'm citing these journals. So which journal says something different? We should have that debate. Tell me a journal that has done systematic reviews that cites different evidence, that cites strong evidence for benefits of these therapies.
The standards of care were developed based on extensive...
You're not telling me any journal, you're not telling me any study. Don't say standards of care.
Yeah. So...
Tell me one.
The standards of care.
That's the standards of care. That's not a journal, that's not a study. That's not an organization, that's not an institution. You're just saying words.
So now, as you can see from that clip, this guy, and I guess they're at the house, he's asking this lady, hey, look, I done looked up all these studies and nothing has shown me that we even know the benefits or the risks, for that matter, long term, for you basically saying gender affirming care for young people is okay. Can you tell me why you think that it's okay for us to just go forward with this? And this lady is over there saying, well, did you do this study? Just basically deflecting. And he keeps asking her, putting her in the corner for her to basically admit on record that what she signed up for, or what she signed off on for our children, is what she's affirming, right? But she won't say that. She would rather actually just deflect and talk about all these other things and talk about research and all of that. And he has done his research than to answer it, because she knows in her heart of hearts what she's doing to our children is wrong. Y'all don't hear me though. Listen, this goes back to Laverne Cox. Laverne Cox said, hey, y'all don't understand. They're trying to take away our health care. People are fleeing the countries and the states because they're trying to take away our health care. You guys, we need to stand together. This is what she wants us to stand together for. Do you hear me? Oh, by the way, another part of this is, so Miss Laverne Cox was saying all of this about all of this, and I was telling y'all it's gonna directly affect our children, black women, our kids. It's gonna directly affect us, and y'all probably was like, ain't no way it's over there, all the way over there in California, woo, scoot. Well, let's hear what these people had to say about where it's gonna be affected at, for the most part, in the neighborhoods. Let's listen.
Is now normalizing the idea that minors can be given hormones to prevent their biological development and their secondary sexual characteristics. Dr. Laverne, you have supported both allowing minors to be given hormone blockers to prevent them from going through puberty, as well as surgical destruction of a minor's genitalia. Like surgical mutilation, hormonal interruption of puberty can permanently alter and prevent secondary sexual characteristics. The American College of Pediatricians reports that 80 to 95% of prepubertal children with gender dysphoria will experience resolution by late adolescence if not exposed to medical intervention and social affirmation. Dr. Laverne, do you believe that minors are capable of making such a life-changing decision as changing one's sex?
Well, Senator, thank you for your interest in this question. Transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field with robust research and standards of care that have been developed. And if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed as the Assistant Secretary of Health, I would look forward to working with you and your office and coming to your office and discussing the particulars of the standards of care for transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake, but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and that parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and to talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question.
Are y'all still asleep, black women, or are y'all awake now? Did you hear her say that they were gonna administer it to the street kids? Where do most black people live? Where does the large majority of black people live? Where? In the what? Streets? That mean your kids. Yep. That mean they gonna push it on your kids first and foremost. Probably mostly than any other genders or race, I'm sorry. Yeah, on our kids. On black women's kids. So this standing with Laverne Cox, I don't want to hear none of it. I'm not standing with that. I have completely withdrawn my support, not from the trans community as a whole. I'll just say this. I don't have a problem with the trans community. I don't have a problem with the gay community. I actually have always embraced them. But when it comes to their agendas, I have completely withdrawn my support. I don't want nothing to do with it. Because guess what? I could be selfish and be like, well, shit, I ain't got no child. That's on them. You know what I'm saying? But me as a black woman who care and love black women, and love black women, want us to succeed. And if I want us to succeed, we all got to succeed. Do you hear me? So with that being said, y'all, I'm calling for the movement. Y'all need to pull back a little bit. Pull on back, because this ain't working out in our favor, black women. It never has and it never will. And that's just the facts. Moving on to the last little tidbit of this. We got Dr.
With the childhood
now listen, if y'all
transgender
like me,
movement, these young
some of y'all probably like Dr.
Of course, in
Get him off my
California,
screen. And you know what?
sexual
I understand,
reassignment surgery is
stuff he be
totally
saying,
legal.
I'd be like, boy,
You
go
have children
late.
out here.
But
Dwayne
just
Wade's
really
son and
quickly,
others
he was asked about the
getting
Jess
sexual
Hilarious
surgery
and
to
TS
reinvent
situation and what his
themselves in
thoughts
the
were.
opposite
And he
sex
said
before
some
they
things
even
that were
old
very
enough
interesting.
to
And I'll just say
responsibly
this, I have
make that
learned
kind
in my recent
of a
past
permanent
to
decision
not
for
just shut
themselves.
people out
And
because
we
I
as
quote
black
unquote don't
people
like them.
are
I have actually learned in my
overlooking the
recent past to,
fact
you know how
that
they say eat the meat and spit out the bones or whatever, or at least give an ear because you never know where wisdom will come from, and not even wisdom, where knowledge will come from. Dr. Umar explains his position on this, and I think it was very, very important that we hear this as black women, because he's telling the God honest truth. I'm gonna leave y'all with that, but I want y'all to drop down in the comments and let me know what y'all think about this Laverne Cox response, and also I want us to open our third eye and really start paying attention and listening to what's going on in this world, because they are coming for our children. They said it, not me. We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. If you don't believe me, put it in on Twitter, YouTube, or something like that, and you're gonna find it. But anyway, I'm leaving y'all with Dr. Umar, what he had to say, and I'm really looking forward to what y'all have to say in the comments. Y'all can call me whatever y'all want, but always remember, I care about black women.
She's never ovulating
like I said, like, share, subscribe,
She's never
all
getting
that good stuff. I will see y'all later. Bye.
Why you see it with the childhood transgender movement, these young children. And of course, in California, sexual reassignment surgery is totally legal. You have children out here, Dwayne Wade's son and others, getting sexual surgery to reinvent themselves in the opposite sex before they're even old enough to responsibly make that kind of a permanent decision for themselves. And we as black people are overlooking the fact that this childhood transgender movement, which was refueled by President Barack Obama while he was in office, is nothing other than a form of genocide and extermination. When a boy decides to get sexual reassignment surgery to become an artificial woman, he castrates himself. They remove his testicles from his scrotum. This is no different than the white man hanging the black man in Reconstruction America. We are now voluntarily castrating ourselves. When they take your testicles out of your scrotum, they can't put them back. They're never having children ever. When the girl undergoes sexual reassignment surgery to become an artificial man, they remove her ovaries. She's never ovulating again. She's never getting pregnant. Why are we as black people allowing our children to make permanent decisions about their ability to reproduce? This is not just a decision about whether you want to be a girl or whether you want to be a boy. No, This is a decision about your capacity to reproduce yourself when you become an adult. Once they reassign you, they castrate and sterilize you. Reproduction is over. And black people, so caught up in the LGBT crusade, are not seeing the fact that this is not about LGBTQ. This is about the genocide of African people disguised as childhood transgender. And then there's another point: pedophilia. The pedophiles are active supporters of the LGBTQ movement. Why? Why do the pedophiles care about lesbians, bisexuals, homosexuals, and transgenders? If I am a pedophile, I don't want to go to jail. I'm a celebrity, I'm famous. Ritualistic sex is what we do with kids. It's part of our demonic culture. I want pedophilia to become normal. I want it stricken from the criminal code altogether. I'm going to push LGBTQ because if a child is old enough to decide that they want to live their life as the opposite gender, if a child is old enough to decide, I want permanent sexual reassignment surgery, if a child is old enough to decide, I never want to have children, take my testicles, take my ovaries. If an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old child is old enough to make those three decisions, how can you argue that they're not old enough to decide to have sex? The argument of the pedophile is going to be backed up by this LGBT crusade against our children, because in their sick minds, they are rationalizing the argument before the courts. If he's old enough to say, I don't want my testicles, if she's old enough to say, I never want to have children, if he's old enough to say, I want to live my life as a girl, if she's old enough to say, I want to live a life as a boy and I don't care about having kids, and she can say this at 12, is she not also old enough to decide when she's ready to have sex? That is going to be the argument that the pedophiles are going to take into court.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.